All right.
You're being live streamed.
All right. I fixed it. I fixed it. I fixed it.
Hey, Aaron.
All right. So
Ray,
here we
how
go.
are you
Let me
today,
cut
man?
this on.
How are you
Hey,
doing,
Jim,
folks?
Michael Dale. How you guys doing?
Nice to meet you.
All
Nice to
right.
speak to you.
All right. All right. So we are streaming live. And I will also go ahead and let me see. Do I need to do that? Oh yeah, resume. We could do that. Resume. We could do that too. All right. We are streaming live.
So we've got a couple of more minutes that we can just have a little old-fashioned networking. I know that there's several people on the call today that I don't know. I'm seeing Aaron from Canada. Aaron, have you met most of the folks on the call today?
No, sir, I haven't. I know Daryl and you, that's it.
So make sure you drop your information in the chat so that anyone else that wants to connect with you has an opportunity.
Hey, Daryl. Hey, Jim.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Liba.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
All right. We are streaming live, everyone. We're streaming live.
That's awesome. Hey, Alicia.
Hey,
I see new people today. Ray, welcome. Maybe I haven't seen you before. Aaron, I don't know.
believe you had another call. I probably jumped on.
Oh, I've had a point, I think Jim can back me up. We've had like 60 plus people. So I'm still learning everyone's names.
Ryan Windus, I don't know that you and I have met before. Where are you calling in from today?
Hey, I'm based in Northern Virginia, just out of Washington, D.C.
Fantastic. And how did you hear about the call today?
Yeah, so I actually I'm part of Sub 2. So Lawrence McKay brought me along to another meeting. So I've been to one before, but definitely still a relative newcomer to the group.
Fantastic. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
All right. What time is it? We got a minute to go. Michael, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, Liba. Thanks for having me on.
And you got a big event coming up for local Chicago people. Do you want to talk about that real quick? Where?
Yeah, Thursday night we do once a month a local meetup, live meetup. Jim has spoken at it, and love to have you come out and speak one night. We meet at the 99 Asian Bistro, which is at Cortland and Elston in Chicago, and it's a great event. We do a lot of individual networking, go around. If people are working on something, they should bring a project or their topic to that. And we have a speaker typically tonight, or this week we have Steve Grammarosa. He's with Lakeland Title, really a dynamic speaker, and he'll talk a little bit about the title process and the importance behind that, as well as just some fundamental skills that we could use in going into the environment that we're going into right now. So that starts at 6 o'clock, and then there's live entertainment afterwards. So next.
So if everyone would mute yourself as you come into the room, that would be great.
Wait, live entertainment. What's entertainment?
They have music afterwards. So it's a great venue. I'm starting next month. I'll be partnering with Jeff Ma and his meetup group. So we usually have 100, 150 people come out. So
wow.
Yeah.
That is a big attendance.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
There's someone by the name of Solar Powered. Is that your correct name? Are you able to?
That's Anthony, I believe.
Okay.
Must be out in the sun getting some vitamin D.
Jim, you let me know when we can get started. I'm just excited to introduce Mike.
I think we're at 102. Let's go ahead and get started. have a very hearty welcome to everyone that's here. I see several people that were also at the July 13th mixer downtown Chicago, which was a blast. If you guys weren't there, make sure that you don't miss any of our upcoming events, and encourage you to get out and start networking in person with like-minded individuals. And also want to invite everyone that's on the call. If you're not familiar with the GOB network, just to check us out online at gobnetwork.com. And this is a weekly series that we put on, and normally Daryl runs the series, but Liba has been our guest host for the last several weeks, and leading up to an event that she is hosting, and that we are tagging along, trying to help out as much as we can. And having Mike here is one of our integral parts to give back to this and add value for everyone that's on the call, with the idea of connecting you with capital, or giving you some really valuable insights about the secrets of raising capital. And so with that, Liba, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jim. Well, firstly, if you were at the July 13th event, write in the chat just so we know who's here from there. That was a super fun event. I was so busy being hostess, I didn't get a chance to really meet everyone, but I still am getting back to people about people were really grateful, Jim. They were really excited about it. And what was cool about the meetup is that partnerships were actually made, which I think is the neatest thing in the whole world. That was the entire desire of that whole meetup. So, and it was successful. So that's awesome. If you're in Chicago, or even from afar, Brian came from afar. And I actually, if you're on the call, I sent out an attendee master list with everyone's LinkedIn's. That's one of the things that we're trying to do. A lot of people, we go out and network, we shake hands, but we don't actually take it from there. So we're kind of facilitating relationships beyond that. But I met Mike for the first time at one of the GOB network meetups at the tap room. Is that what it's called? Navigator, link to some place where you can buy beer on tap. It's super cool. I'm sitting next to Michael. We totally sat down next to each other by accident. And I'm meeting this guy, and he's got such a cool background, such an interesting story. And I would never have thought, I don't know how many months later, that we stayed in touch on LinkedIn. And he was also at July 13th event. He's got 30 plus years in real estate. He's controlled over $285 million in real estate transaction, entrepreneur, author, speaker, trainer. He's a coach. He's a chief investment officer of 2 multifamily hedge funds. And he's just got an unbelievable story and an unbelievable social media. So if you're not following him, you should, and you should steal some ideas because he knows how to go viral. Michael, with that, thank you so much for joining the GOB call this week. We're so excited to have you. And if you could start maybe just sharing a little bit about your story and your background so we can get a feel for a little bit who you are.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Liba. I appreciate it. And I have to say that your event last week was awesome. We had a great time, and really had a chance to meet some people. So, hey, I have to say hi to a couple people. Ariel, good to see you. And Tim, good to see you. And it's great to connect with people. So if I don't know you, I'd love to meet you and get to know you. So I put my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out. Like Liba said, I've been in the real estate space for well over 30 years. So I'm going to date myself a little bit. And things have changed over the years, but the fundamentals don't change. I started out as a residential agent and went from selling hundreds of houses a year to going in the apartment business because I had this dream that I wanted to be an apartment investor. If anybody's from Chicago and names like Inland Real Estate or Sam Zell, I watched them for years start from really minimal to build these huge companies. If you look at Inland Real Estate today, they started out as 4 high school teachers that bought 1 4-flat and raised capital to do that. And I know that's what we're focused on here, is raising capital. And today they continue to raise capital, but in a different format. And they're one of the largest REITs in the world. in 80 countries in every product class you could think of. So I always had this dream to go in the multifamily business, raise capital in the multifamily space and do deals. And so in 2005, I ventured off, went out and started raising capital. And, you know, when we talk about how to raise capital, one of the first things I ever did was I put a little $45 ad in the classified section of a newspaper, the local paper, and all it said was real estate investors wanted. And from that little ad, I raised $700,000 over about a 4-month period. And it was a good kickstart to what we went on to do from there. I did a lot of seminars, similar to doing online webinars and these types of things today. But I would put people in a room and talk about real estate investing, the fundamentals behind it, and go on and say, oh, by the way, here's what we're doing. And people loved what we were doing, and we raised a boatload of capital and bought 4,000 apartments in 5 markets. One thing I would say is we grew way too fast as a company. If I look back, 2007, I bought 2,200 units, was about 17 properties. And, you know, I always tell people, I say, hey, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time, you'll get there. Just follow your dream and keep taking action every day, but you don't have to grow that fast. We grew way too fast as a company. I was over leveraged. You know, banks were throwing money at people. Their private equity people were throwing money at you. And I had $60 million worth of real estate that I was at 85% leverage, which just that alone is a problem. I tell people today, when I work with them and teach them and coach them, is don't be more than 65 or 70% LTV on your deals. You need the cash flow. You need to have that equity tranche in there in order to pay your bills and pay your investors. And that wasn't happening. So I grew way too fast. I was over leveraged. I was undercapitalized. You know, my goal always was to build a big company and employ people, give good jobs, and have great benefits for people. And I had over 100 people working for me in a 30-month period. It was just brain damage. But the markets were conducive at that point to grow. Problems arose. You know, 2008 came around, boom, it was like hitting a brick wall in a freight train at 200 miles an hour. We derailed as a company. And as we derailed, I tried to save the company. You know, my thoughts were, hey, this is just a recession. I've been through a couple of recessions. I thought, this is just a recession. It'll last 17 or 18 months. There'll be a 10 or 12% correction in the marketplace, and then the markets will bounce back. Well, anybody who lived through 2008 knows that that's not what happened. That it lasted 7 or 8 years, and there was a 45, 47% correction in the markets. And it was a very unstable time. So I thought, hey, you know, I probably had 12 deals at the time. I had 38 different companies, and I had 12 deals at the time. I probably should have just let go to foreclosure, but didn't do that. And as a result of not doing that, I thought I'm going to try and save everybody and save all the real estate. So I crafted a plan with my attorney and my accountant to move money from profitable companies to non-profitable companies. And that was fine. You know, they said, just leave a paper trail when the markets bounce back. And they're thinking it's a recession too, a short-lived recession. And when the markets bounce back, you can put the money back. Well, the markets never bounce back. And I didn't tell my investors. So I was very quiet behind closed doors what I did. And for non-disclosure and not being transparent enough with my investors, I wound up getting charged on wire fraud and mail fraud charges and sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. So in 2013, got wiped out, lost everything. I did go to prison for about 7.5 years. And you know, during that time, I really wondered what happened. Right? What was I going to do different? How could I re-engineer my life? And I want people to understand that, you don't have to let your past define your future. I might have been in prison for making some mistakes in business. I might have been behind a wall, but I think so many people are trapped in a prison in their own mind, either by abuse or addiction, that they can't get out, and they let that hold them back. Don't let that stuff hold you back. Move forward. So during that time while I was gone, I re-engineered myself. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I wrote 2 books. One of the books you can see behind me is Exit Plan, Your Complete Guide to Multifamily Investing and Why You Need an Exit Plan Before You Buy. And I wrote that because there's a lot of great trainers in the marketplace. There's a lot of great coaches, but people teach you how to find a deal, buy a deal, and run a deal. Nobody teaches you how to get out or how to maximize your profit. And I wanted people to understand when was the best time to exit, and that there wasn't only one alternative for exiting. So there's multiple ways, and there's ways to increase the profitability in a multifamily or commercial property, and increase the returns for everybody involved. So I wrote 2 books. I wrote an ethics course. I taught real estate investing and property management in prison. I was on an outreach program, went into the community. I told my story to small business owners and local college students. And during that time, I met a professor from the University of Minnesota, and he and I co-authored a paper together that we had published in the Business Journal of Ethics, which gets taught at the collegiate level for forensic accounting and sales and marketing classes. I came home thinking I'm going to go in the coaching and training business. I'll never raise capital again. So I started underwriting deals because I needed to get familiar with how to do that again. And underwriting is just a fancy word that we use to say, hey, we look at the 3 ghosts, right? The ghosts of the financials of the past, the current financials, and the financials of the future. What do you think you can do? How do you think you can operate that property? So during that time, I found a deal that I went to a couple of my coaching clients, and I love to do that. People I work with on a one-on-one basis, that want the business as bad as I do. I work with them and help them to do their next deal or do their first deal. So I like to partner with people. Wound up partnering with 2 of my coaching clients, and our securities attorney came to me one day and said, hey, I think I can get you approved by the SEC. And I said, well, have at it. So we never talked about it again. About 3 months later, she came back and said, look what I got. And she had a certificate from the SEC that just basically said that I could go back and raise capital, be an issuer of securities and a sponsor of deals again. So it's funny how life circled around. I think there's 3 key components in raising capital in the multifamily space, commercial space, that we all need to keep our eyes set on. And the first is relationships, right? Hey, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my relationship with Liba and Jim and Daryl. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here, but we should all be building relationships with everybody you run into, you have contact with every day. I say, in this space, we're like a farmer. You have to plant a seed, water that seed, because the time is going to come to harvest that seed. Underwriting is the next thing. You might not like it. Math might not be your skill set. I hated math in high school. I can remember arguing with my high school teacher saying, I'll never use this stuff. And he said, oh, yes, you will. And he was right. I use it every day now. And I love it. I love what I do around underwriting. That might not be your skill set, but what you want to do is you want to understand the numbers, because the third key is raising capital. And if you're going to be raising capital in those relationships that you've built and with those people that you have, understanding the financials and the model of the underwriting is extremely important. You have to have that skill. And like I said, even if you're not the one on the team that's doing the underwriting, understand how to talk about it. you know, this is a team sport today, and bringing people together to do all the functions. You know, if you sat down and wrote out everything that goes into a syndication, you might come up with 15 different moving parts in a particular syndication that have to happen. Figure out for yourself what you're really good at,
Right.
and then go find people that are good at the other stuff. And that's how you create a great team to go out and raise capital. Today, raising capital is something that we do every day, all day long. I think that I look at it like this: you have to be a fisherman. You know, they say if you have one line in the water, you're going to catch one fish. But if you have 5 lines in the water, you're going to catch more fish, right? So how many different lines do you have in the water? You know, Liba, you were so gracious when you said my social media. Connect with me. I'm everywhere, every platform, wherever you are, you'll find me. I have a great team behind me that helps push that out there. But what we do is we try to put a lead magnet out there. Maybe it's an ebook on raising private capital or on syndications, and people download that. They fall into a funnel. That funnel will drip on them till we have a opportunity to give them a phone call and take their temperature. You know, are they interested in investing? Is passive investing a direction that they want to go in? And then you just continue to, you know, build into those relationships. And it's not making phone calls. You know, I have 9,000 people in my database. It's not calling everybody all the time, but it's, you know, emails, and it's text messages, and it's reach out, and it's letting people know what you're doing. You know, people always say, one of the questions I get asked a lot from people is, when you're at a networking event and somebody asks you what you do for a living, you know, be prepared. Have that 11-second elevator pitch for yourself. But what I tell people today is I say, hey, I'm the chief investment officer for a multifamily hedge fund. I buy large apartment complexes in the South and the Southeast, and we partner with people just like you to participate in the profits. Is that something you'd have an interest in? You could say you're an asset manager. You could say you're an underwriter, whatever that is for you and whatever your participation is. But know what you do. Be very clear on your own direction and what you want to accomplish. And you'll build that network. But raising capital is something that I coach my people on doing every day. From the first time that we have a coaching call, I work on teaching them how to build relationships, where to build those relationships, because it's not just about anybody, but everybody should know that this is what we do. You know, it's just like last week I walked into Liba's event, and I would think, you know, my mind tells me that everybody knows what I do. I'm in the real estate business and I raise capital because I'm at Liba's capital raising event. But that's not true. You know, you have to tell people who you are, what you do, what your mission is, what your vision is, and you get them then to buy into your dreams and your goals, and they help you succeed, because what happens is you're helping them succeed. So if I can find out from Liba or from Jim or from Cedric exactly what they need and how I can help build into their network and build into their dreams, I ultimately will build mine. You know, Zig Ziglar said years ago that you help enough other people get what they want, you'll ultimately get what you want. So
I think that's so perfectly said. First of all, I had no idea that portion of your story. I feel like that's crazy. I feel like we didn't give that enough time to even like talk about. So I definitely want to explore that a lot more. And maybe we can talk about it with more people on the call. I actually told Jim, I knew you had an insane background. Anyone who's paying attention to the call right now is like hearing you're obviously credible, because you've gone from a crazy amount of success, you've fallen, you've rebuilt, which I think is a stronger testament than just always being on the right upward track. You've actually gone backwards and then gone forward again, which is way harder. And so I told Jim, I actually created a little bit of my own ideas and then a little bit of the internet. And I wanted you to talk about it too, because you put me to shame with your background, your history, your experience. one thing Michael's saying is true. Like if you're on this call and you're passively listening, that's great. But really think about it. Like even in the chat box, you can write, hey guys, what do you think? This is what I say, put something in there. Like, I'd love to hear, like, Alicia can put in real quick, hey, this is who I am. This is my 15-second spiel. Because a lot of the times you go to events or you go on a webinar and you don't realize that you're going to find a partner on the webinar. You have no idea you're going to meet a partner in the room. And I think that the biggest mistake we make is assuming people think we know we assume people know what we do or who we are, but not everyone knows the mission behind why you're doing it. And maybe they're going to resonate with it. I also hate math, Michael. I hate math. So I feel you on that one. So guys, I had built this and I'm going to post it in here, and then Michael and I are going to dissect it for you. Basically, I told Jim, I said, I'm very into tangible stuff. Like, I believe talking is great. Hearing someone like Michael's story is inspiring. I'm like motivated to go do something with my life more than before. But then after this call, real life hits me again, and I have tenant issues and I have this issue and my inbox is full and I get right back down in the slump. So I was thinking to myself, I myself am raising money right now for an industrial project. Michael's always raising money. Michael, you and I are going to go through, and I put this together and you guys can jump in with like more ideas in the box, but 9 overlooked places to source capital. And I built it before this call. It's going to pick it up, and I'll put the PDF here, because if raise your hand right now, if you're raising money for a project, it'll be like, maybe you're not, maybe you're like Ray Wood is raising money. Alicia's raising money. I'm raising money. Are we the only people on this call raising money for a project? Ryan's raising money for a project. Jim's always raising money for Brian Harvey, Cedric. Okay. Awesome. Okay. CP. Oh, way to go, Billy. Okay. First and foremost, guys, I'm raising money for a project, but I come across money that I can't use. And it puts me in a really good position when I get to refer that money to someone who needs it. For example, I come across people all the time that want to invest in small multifamily homes. I don't do that. So if that's you, guess what? I come across that money all the time. I'd be happy to refer it to you. And I know Michael comes across all kinds of money nonstop. So I think make sure you connect with Michael. Michael, I don't know if you have the PDF in front of you. I emailed it out to you, Jim, Daryl before the call, but I'll just go through it real quick. 9 overlooked places. Put a 1 in the chat box if you'd like to come up with some ideas to get on call around with someone to raise money. Would that be helpful to you? I don't want to talk to myself. I actually did this exercise for myself because I'm running out of ideas. Awesome. Okay. Wow. Perfect response. All right, Michael, you and I are going to dissect this real quick.
Okay.
First one, and you guys are going to go, oh, that's so obvious. Let me see if I can actually attach this file. Hang on. I'm going to attach this here so you guys can pull it up. 9 overlooked places to source capital. Here we go. All right. So the first one is industry events. And I know they're like rolling your eyes right now, but give me a second before you roll your eyes, because there's a couple ones in here that you're not going to think about. And I wrote a little bit of information under each one. And then Michael, you and I are going to talk a little bit. We're going to have a discussion about this. Very often industry events and conferences, you guys are going to real estate ones, but there's a really good idea to go to industry events and conferences that are in tech, that are in medicine, that are in startups. And you're going, why should I go there? Well, because there's money there. And if someone's there to invest in another project, very likely they're an investor person themselves and they have an investor mindset. I never thought about this until I got on a webinar. It's not a webinar. I was having a podcast with someone. He's like, Lieb, if you only knew how much money I raised by going to dental conferences. And I was like, excuse me. I was like, that's so smart. People that are in the medical profession, also, they're so busy with their jobs, they don't think about getting, but they want to invest. So Michael, let's talk about that one real quick. Have you ever gone to a conference outside of real estate and came across money?
I have. And what I really like to do is not go to the conference, but work the hall. So go to the conference and be in the conference during the break when people are leaving and going to the restroom. Stop people, introduce yourself. Yeah, I think conferences are more effective in the hallways than they are in the conference.
1,000%.
Granted, you'll learn something if you're in the conference, but you're going to meet somebody in the hallway.
1,000%. I actually was in Colorado for an event, and one of the guys, he runs a family office, and I was like, oh yeah, that speaker in that conference in Miami was so good. And he was like, what speaker? I was in the hallway the whole time. So sometimes the speakers are really worth going in. Like I recommend that, but 100%. Okay. So I put this underneath that, which is medical and tech events. And I also added websites that you guys can go find these events in specific. The number one place, if you don't know, and some people don't know this, so it's not like you're dumb if you don't know this, Eventbrite connects to everything, but there's certain websites that are also really, really good that aren't like you wouldn't think about, because if you're not in the, let's say, the medical industry or the tech industry, they have their own websites for their own events. And I only started thinking about this after I met that guy that was going to dental events. I was like, how the hell do I find these conferences? Because they don't advertise to me. So Chat GPT and other AI tools and a couple websites that I added on here. Okay, this is my favorite one, Michael. I want you to give me your opinion on this one. All right, friends and families IRAs. So let's talk about that real quick. And I'm not giving any legal advice, to be very clear. Go speak to a lawyer on how you can help your family and friends do that. But a lot of people, and I only know this, and then Michael, I want your opinion on this. So I worked at New York Life, and I used to roll people's old 401ks into New York Life mutual funds. And it was good money too. And I was like, oh my God, there's so many people that have old 401ks or old IRA accounts and are doing absolutely nothing with it. It's making them no money. I used to call it dead money. And I would roll it into something that made sense for them. There's an opportunity to go to people and say, hey, they're like, oh, Michael, I don't have any money right now. I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But maybe you or someone else has a 401k that's not performing the way that you would want it to. We can discuss that. Michael, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great idea. And the thought that I have on that is, when you ask people if they want to invest and they say, oh, I don't have any money, I always say to people, are you sure? And it kind of makes them set back. What do you mean? You know, because, well, where is their dead money? Do they have an old IRA? Do they have a life insurance policy? Do they have equity in a rental house or their house? So there's always, you know, in a lot of cases, there's money laying around that people don't even realize is there. I had a guy one time, he had 5 different old IRAs. And, you know, when he rolled all of those into a self-directed IRA, he was able to do like $150,000 investment and had no idea, never thought about it.
So often people we talk to just have no idea. And it's not that they don't want to, it's that they don't know. And it's your job as someone who's looking for money and capital to help people find out where they can pull this money from. And actually, I don't know what the crazy statistic of people that are sitting on homes owned outright, but like a humongous percentage of people in America that are doing that. I wouldn't recommend that right now, actually, because interest rates are really bad. But before, a couple months ago, maybe when things were a little bit better, that was an option. I know people were actually refinancing their homes and investing to different properties. So IRAs, guys, you raise your hand if you know someone has a corporate job for a long time before everyone started switching jobs every year, right? Someone you know. Exactly. So if you're on this call, like Ryan's smiling, I don't know if he's smiling at that comment, but now everyone switches jobs every year. So, you know, eat up people's IRAs now, because no one's going to really have old stacked 401ks in a little bit. I love this one, Michael. I'm creative, you guys. By the way, this wasn't all coming from AI. I built a lot of this myself. This is my own opinion. And this is something that I'm doing. So people selling their companies, businesses selling their companies. And if you're thinking like, oh, where can I build relationships with people that are selling their companies? Brokers. So I still do for pleasure. I live on biz buy sell. I love to see what companies are selling for fun and then finding out information about them. So through my time doing that, I built a lot of relationships with brokers that are selling people's companies for them. And often, you guys, when people sell their companies, what are they going to do with their money? I happen to know a gentleman who sold his company and has he got $60 million from the sale, and then he ended up reinvesting into a lot of real estate. And so that also spurred my thought process. I was like, oh, interesting. Why am I not building relationships with brokers to help see if they want to refer me business? I can refer them business. I know a lot of businesses. Michael, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that building relationships with anybody, one of the missing links that people forget is they forget to ask for referrals. And, you know, even Liba, if I'm talking to you and building a relationship with you for the first time, I should ask you, hey, who else do you know who might have an interest in this? I heard a guy say one time, hey, Liba, would you give me 20 leads? And the other person kind of freaks out, 20 leads, you know, but if you got 3 or 5 other contacts, what a great number.
1,000%. And I think we don't approach things as aggressively today as we used to, because we're dealing with such big numbers, but the method always has been the same. I was a top producer at New York Life because because I never met someone who either didn't buy a policy from me or give me 3 people that would buy a policy from me. And not because I'm pushy or anything, because I did a good service and I was kind and honest, and everyone on this call is like that too. It's important to always go for the ask. And if someone says no, they're not rejecting you. So don't take that as a rejection to you. They're just not ready right now, right? So maintain that relationship. You have no idea who you're going to work with, or who you're going to partner with, or who's going to invest in your properties. Michael already talked about this a little bit ago when I mentioned IRAs, but whole life policies. A lot of people don't know this, but people structure, they call them college saving funds if you want, or different kinds of baby funds or whatever, but you create a whole life policy on a little kid. So where you're basically paying nothing in insurance premium. And then by the time the kid's like 20, 25, there's a ton of money in this account. And some people use that for college, for weddings, for their first down payment on a home, but that's actually a really great place to get real estate money. Can you add the PDF into the chat? Sure. I'm going to re-add the PDF to the chat right now. So Michael, let's talk about whole life policies real quick.
You know, there's a thing out there, Liba, called infinite banking. And infinite banking today is just kind of a glorious way of saying, you know, these whole life universal policies. But somebody could actually fund one of those, and then they could get the money out and pay themselves back a small interest and invest that money in other opportunities. I don't know all the mechanics behind it, but I've had a couple people on my podcasts that have talked about it. And it's an interesting process for somebody who might have, you know, $100,000, $200,000, and they want to kind of like double protection and double dip on it. It gives you an opportunity to do that. I
love that. And I put in here to be clear that we're not offering any legal advice. So like, if you're going to, let's say you run into someone, you're like, oh, I was on a webinar and they said, give me your IRA money. Still speak to someone on how to do that. You know what I mean? There's a process, but I'm spitballing ideas. And are any of these ideas helpful? Has anyone ever thought of these ideas? Like, I just want to make sure Michael and I aren't having our own private conversation. I used to sell Universal Life. It's a great tool. Yes, 100%. Billy, where's Billy? Billy, hey, same thing. I sold life insurance and I can't believe it's only taken me until like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, especially when I was building this sheet, I was like, why have I not reached out to people about like, you just have to jog your mind to come up with new creative ways. Something that obviously you guys know about, family offices, because we bring them to the call. Family offices, and I have here a website on here as well for you to like help find family offices. But one of the best tools for finding people who run family offices or whatever is LinkedIn. So Michael, maybe you want to give maybe 3 best suggestions to finding and cultivating relationships with family offices.
Yeah, and not just family offices, but there's a lot of possibilities with LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn and research family offices, research, you know, private investors, equity investors, and reach out to those individuals. Hey, you know, I've been building my LinkedIn database for about 2.5 years now and have over 12,000 contacts. And I think the number is close to 4,500 Zoom calls that I've done with those people. So, you know, you can be really effective. Sit down every morning and connect with 20 people on LinkedIn, set up meetings, set up times to get together, and you're building those relationships.
I think the most undervalued tool.
Yeah. And then you need to be active on the platform, right? So be posting, be talking about private equity, be talking about real estate investing, be talking about what you do. And, you know, you build those relationships with people by being attracted to you and what you're doing.
100%. And I think also, you know, what's funny is like when you're in your own space, like your own industry, it's kind of, have you ever bought a car and then as you're driving like that day or the next day, you see that car everywhere? Yeah. Nod your head. Yes. If no. Nod your head yes if yes. Okay, everyone's like yes after I said no. So exactly. So I happened to, Michael, when I started getting into raising money, I started meeting everyone that's raising money, and I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's raising money. There's no money out there. Totally inaccurate. The same way, like, and I always use this to remind myself, and then I say this to other people. When I was, you know, selling life insurance, there was 1,000 agents that were selling insurance, but someone wanted to buy from me because someone connected with me. And I think it's important to find out what is your what is it that you connect with and over, and what are you purpose driven by? And people you're going to find people that are attracted to you and your story. Like Michael's going to attract people that will invest with him that will not invest with me. And I might attract people that might invest with me that Michael won't be able to get. And that's just because human beings are different. And it's not all, people actually don't buy your numbers. They buy your story. Do you guys remember when Josh 40 was on the call? How dope was Josh? Ramos, yes. Josh literally prints money from the internet by basically telling stories. That's how he does it. And that's how everyone does it. The biggest internet people today, they don't actually tell. Grant Cardone hardly ever tells you what his numbers are, right? But he shows you this lifestyle and he lets you know that you can invest in it. By the way, he's taking people's IRA money all the time. He's literally going after people's, that's like what he's doing. So obviously it works. This is interesting. Government grants and subsidies. So I've actually I've done a couple things in this area. Michael, maybe you've done more. Maybe Jim's done some. Maybe Daryl's done some. You guys can pipe in. But if you're a female-owned business, you have opportunity. If you're a minority, you have opportunity. If you want to, I forget what it's called, which sucks. I'll have to make sure I'm more prepared for the next call. But if you want to like add like a greenhouse of some sort to the roof of your building, if you can get government funding. So Michael, have you ever tried the government grants and subsidies to like pump more value and money into your properties?
I have not. I know that there are things out there that exist, but we have never used them for. One of the things that's interesting right now is if you go and you put solar power on your building, that you can go get a loan just on the energy portion of rehabs or additions that you might be doing to your real estate. And there's all kinds of kickbacks and things. And I don't want to say kickbacks, that's the wrong terminology. But I want to say that, there's money that'll come back from the state and the federal government on that solar power, on the energy efficiency. If you upgrade your AC units, you can get a special loan. So there's different things you can put in a capital stack that will help with, lessening how much you have to raise, as well as how you can enhance the return.
Right. Like be as creative as possible. I think often everyone looks at things very, very linearly, and you got to be creative, Michael, right? You got to come up with cool ideas. I don't quote me on this, but I just remember having a conversation with someone. First of all, at July 13th event, I got to get this guy's information. He is in California and Chicago. Michael, maybe you spoke with him. He does that. He helps you put solar panels on your buildings. Jim, he was at dinner with us after, whatever. I'll find out who he is.
It's Anthony, and he's actually on the call today.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Where's Anthony? Perfect. I love shouting people out. I don't see him. But Anthony, maybe write in the chat if you're here, or maybe you stepped out for a second. But Anthony, I know, mentioned it briefly, and I think that's what he does. So hopefully when he gets back on here, Anthony, make sure that you let people know who you are. I think that's how he helps people, right? He helps people put solar on their buildings. These are just a few of the creative ideas that I've come up with because people that I happened in my life to raise from, and it's actually working for me. But Michael, if you could, because before we go into Q&A, and obviously I'm going to make sure we post your LinkedIn on here so everyone can get in touch with you. If you could give maybe the top 3 pieces of advice. You've been in it, you've been out of it, you got back into it. One of the pieces of advice I think that you've already given, but you can still give 3, was don't rush. I feel like I'm constantly feeling like time's running out and I have to do it all right now. Yeah. But you said it's a marathon, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about 3 pieces of advice.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to the 3 key fundamentals. And, I love what Liba said. Yeah, don't rush. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You don't have to be done tomorrow. You're not going to be done tomorrow. The more you do, the more you're probably going to want to do. So just take your time, though. Be strategic about everything. Think everything through. And I think the 3 keys, Liba, are really relationships, the underwriting piece, and raising capital. You have to be able to do those 3 things proficiently in order to be successful in the space.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, guys, you have like a veteran gone in and out. You have a guy that's got like a crazy track record who's raised a insane amount of money, coaches people on how to raise money. So obviously you guys can even reach out to him for maybe some pieces of advice. Okay, we already started getting some questions. I love that. Thank you, Ray, for being proactive. What systems, Michael, are you using for lead magnets and email campaigns? That's a marketing question.
Yeah. So we do a lot of marketing, trying to just stay in front of people and attention. And I have 2 different ebooks, and I have a generic webinar that I'm always posting about that people can go. And then I have a lead form that captures name, email address, and phone number, because I want to call people. And when I call people, if people don't answer the phone, I leave a message, and then I immediately send a video text. And because I want to be in front of people, I want people to know what I'm calling about. They might download a lead magnet. So say, Ray, if you went and you downloaded my book on passive investing, you'd fall into my funnel. Over the next 14 days, you'd get probably 8 emails and 8 text messages, and ultimately a couple of phone calls trying to reach you along the way to have a conversation with you. Hopefully in the next 60 days, I'll have my passive investing book out. So
that's awesome. I love that.
Appreciate that, Michael. So, I mean, I guess to clarify a little better, the actual softwares that you're using, like what are those?
So I use Zoho as my CRM, and Zoho is pretty robust. I can build a campaign on the back of Zoho. And then I'll have my the guy who hosts my website just build me a landing page so people can go to a landing page. I use Webinar Kit for webinars. So I'll do a webinar and then I post it on Webinar Kit, and then it's kind of an on-demand service. So Ray, if you said, hey, I want to go watch this webinar, you'll fill out a registration form, and then you can either schedule a time to go back and watch it or drop right in and watch it right then.
Love it. Ray, just to pipe in real quick too, there's a lot of really, really good websites out there. I use Go High Level because you can do everything from email marketing, social media. It's like every tool that was ever out there put into one. It's not the cheapest, but I think it's the best. I did use.
I used to use that. I used to use that one.
Okay, I used to use ClickFunnels. I wasn't a humongous fan of. I happen to love Russell, not a fan of ClickFunnels, the software, but Go High Level works for me. All right, we've got another question from Ariella. How to gain someone's trust to go through you when raising for somebody else's deal?
Ariel, I just think that's, continued conversations, continually building into people. You're always in my space, right? You're always commenting on my LinkedIn stuff. You're always touching base with me. You're calling me. I think that it's over time that we build trust with people. And Liba said it, sometimes people are going to like you and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're going to invest with you or use you. Sometimes they're not. Here's what I know. I know that we'll come back to you again and try and use your group and your platform again because of how you've interacted with us along the way here. And this goes back to it being a marathon, right? It might not happen now. I heard Grant Cardone tell a story, a couple months ago on social media. Somebody was interviewing him, but he said, listen, he goes, there's an investor that just invested with me today, $100,000. But for 20 years, I've been talking to this guy. 20 years. Can you imagine that? And the guy invested $100,000. He went on to say, but now he's just invested $1 million with me. So 20 years it took him to get his feet wet. Then he put a big chunk of money with him. So, it happens, but it happens over time. This is, I would have loved to have come home, 3 years ago, hit the ground running and be in a different place, but we're all right where we're supposed to be.
I love that. All right. Rommel asked, what sources would you recommend to learn underwriting best practices? We got some comments in here, but Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that question. So, hey, I teach underwriting. I love underwriting. I'm a fanatic about it. Daryl teaches underwriting. Daryl loves what he does. There's other people out there that teach underwriting. I have a home study course, and I'll do a personal one-on-one, 8-week session with people, teaching them how to use it, how to use the tool. I've built over 20 years an institutional grade underwriting tool that we continue to perfect and continue to make better, because I want to be, I'm so conservative today that I want to make sure that when I put a stress test on a deal, that I honestly can see, will it perform under stress? So.
I love that. I think underwriting is really challenging. I should note that my partner does majority of the underwriting. So if you there's a woman, I really want to get her on the call, Jim, actually. She raises capital for a living. She has a humongous portfolio. And what she ended up doing was she ended up partnering with 4 other people, because she realized her best and number one unique ability and skill set was raising capital, building relationships. But she did not enjoy sourcing deals, underwriting deals, the construction or whatever. So she made partnerships. So if you're thinking that this is something that's not fun for you, that something that's hard for you or not enjoyable, find a partner. That's my thoughts. What do you think, Michael? Find a partner that enjoys that part, that's really good at it. You'll always succeed so much more when you focus on your unique ability versus trying to force yourself to do something that isn't. It would be like putting me at a desk job. I wouldn't be the best person for it. I just wouldn't be the best person for it.
Yeah. Do a SWOT on yourself, right?
Yeah.
SWOT. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities out there? And then what are the threats around that? And if you can evaluate yourself, then you know what you have to go do. I have a great relationship with my underwriter. I'll go build a relationship with a broker, get my underwriter on the list. My underwriter continues that relationship, underwrites deals. We underwrote $1 billion in transactions between June and January last year. It was 90 deals. We wrote 10 LOIs, got to the altar 7 times. I tried to put a ring on the seller's finger 3 times, and walked away from deals for $300,000 because they just didn't make sense. And I think you tend to overpay if you're not uncovering every rock or opening up every door. So make sure you're doing that, and get people in your team, on your team that you work well with, and everybody knows what their job function is. I have one partner that doesn't raise capital, but she does everything else. All the investor documents, the legal stuff, the financing, the insurance, pays the utility bills, make sure things are operating and running like they're supposed to be. And, without her in my life, my life would be nuts, but I mean, it's already crazy. But
I was going to say, I don't think you live a very, very chill life. I think you live a pretty big life. What's interesting? I feel like we talk so much about like paperwork and whatever. This is a side note. I have to see if he's available, but right in the chat box at number 1, would you have any interest in like having an SEC lawyer speak on the chat on the call to talk about legalities of like structuring contracts? And Sonia's like, yes. Okay. Let's just see if we get a majority vote here. It might not be as exciting as hearing Michael's crazy life story. It might be a little more dry. So drink some coffee, but pay attention because it's all good information you all want to know. Okay. It seems like we have some interest. Okay. Let me see if we can get him to come on, Jim. That might be interesting.
Hey, Dugan Kelly, wouldn't be dry, that's for sure. So
Well, we are taking recommendations. Listen, if anyone on the call knows someone who runs a fund or does something like that, share their information with Jim or Daryl or myself or Alicia. Do them a favor by giving them more attention. I'm sure they're going to be very happy to meet 40 plus people that want to raise money for a deal. It might not, like I said, it might not be that they're doing business with you right now, but let's say you're trying to get a family office or trying to get a fund manager to work with you. What better way to build a relationship with them than say, hey, do you want to speak on a call with a bunch of people that are interested in raising money? You'd be giving them a position of authority to speak. It would be really good for them as well. So Daryl giving some ideas as well. Oh, okay, I love that. All right, listen, we got 9 minutes left of the call. Michael, real quick, best place to follow you and what events do you have coming up so that everyone can participate in what you have going on?
Sure, thank you. Appreciate it. Best places to follow me are anywhere you hang out on social media. So, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you're at, you'll find me, and I'm always dropping nuggets. Have a Facebook group called Multifamily Unplugged. Go join that Facebook group or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Tons of content. There's a lot of things out there that you can use. In my group coaching, I'm just getting ready to go into this. Like this week, I'll do an anatomy of a syndication, and then we'll go into 3 weeks of underwriting, teaching, line by line how the underwriting process works and how to use a tool. Earlier, if you weren't on, we do a live event in Chicago once a month. This week, if you're in Chicago, June 20th, Jim's been a speaker there. We have Steve Grammarosa is with Lakeland Title coming out to speak. He's a very dynamic, entertaining speaker. And then there's live entertainment afterwards. That's at 6 o'clock on Thursday. Coming up in October, I have my virtual summit. It is a 2-day event this year. We'll have about 20 speakers and panelists, different facets of the real estate, multifamily, syndication, raising capital business. So watch for that. Mark your calendars. That'll be October 19th and 20th. And like I said, it's virtual, so you'll be able to do it just like this from the comfort of your home. So
I love it. Okay, well, listen, Michael, such an honor to have you on this call. I think I don't just speak for myself. I'm your story is amazing and inspiring. If you can, real quick, Michael, just in the chat box, post maybe your LinkedIn. Guys, the reason why I'm a big advocate for LinkedIn more than any other platform is because on LinkedIn, it's the best networking tool. On Instagram, Facebook, you can see all of Michael's friends and followers, but on LinkedIn, you can see his professional contacts and kind of build relationships that way. I think that's the best way to go. But other than that, Jim, I just wanted to thank you for letting me assist with bringing speakers. Michael, thank you for being here, and everyone, thank you for being on the call as well. And
don't forget the GOB. We can't forget the GOB. All right. So for those of you who don't know about GOB, if you're interested in the GOB, go to gobnetwork.com. If you want to know more about us, go to gobnetwork.com. Check us out. Join us.
I love it.
To the point, because we've got just a couple of more minutes here. I know there's several people on this call that also already are running a fund or are fund managers, and also folks that have private equity as part of their business. If you would be interested in presenting or speaking at one of these events, make sure and reach out to us, or just drop your name in the chat and let us know. Say, yeah, I'd like to have an opportunity to promote my fund or my business, or just to speak on the subject matter.
I love it. Amazing.
And if you're interested, if you have a deal to underwrite and you would like to present your underwrite to investors, reach out to me, because on Tuesday we have the commercial multifamily mastermind. Okay. Now we don't do no pitch decks, right? We want raw material. That means come with the underwrite. The investors are going to question your underwrite. So if you're interested, reach out to me. Love
it. This group's amazing, guys. Every single week, make sure to tune in. The GOB network is unbelievably phenomenal. And thank you, Alicia, Daryl, Jim, Michael, and everyone for being on today. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey, Liba, connect with me because I have 2 referrals for you.
Love it. And I definitely will.
Make sure and bring a friend with you next week. Spread the word. If there's value here, let everyone know so that that we can continue to help as many folks as possible.
And if we have the same or more attendees of next week, Jim and Daryl will wear a blonde wig. Have a good day, you guys.
All righty. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you this week. And Aaron, I will speak to you very shortly.